Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. It is the week 1 Draftkings recap. I'm going to take a look back at everything that I wrote about, everything that I talked about, my cash game lineup on Draftkings from week 1. We're going to go over it all. We're going to find out where was I right, where was I wrong, where was I lucky, where was I unlucky, where did I make mistakes in my process so that we can hopefully not make those mistakes moving forward. This is a big part of my process every week, and it should be a big part of yours as well. If you can't look back honestly and say, this is what I got right and wrong this week, instead of, well, I should have played this guy because he had more points than the guy that I played, sometimes that stuff happens and it's not real and it's not sustainable. Somebody like Hollywood Brown yesterday had a monstrous day, but that's not sustainable. He did it on less than 15 snaps. That's not going to happen every week, but I bet you some people are going to chase that ball around the roulette wheel and see if they can't, come up on him again in week 2, even though he's probably not going to play anywhere close to the majority of snaps or see enough targets to pay off his inflated salary. As a player does well, the ownership on that player goes up. Their price also goes up. So they become an even worse play than they were before. So while some plays were great plays in week 1 retrospectively, they may not have been great process plays. And by the same token, some of the picks that I made, some of them weren't good process, some of them were and got unlucky. We're going to look at all of them. Let's go through my best buys column that comes out every single Thursday on ESPN. If you would be so kind as to drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notifications bell, because I've got a ton of videos that are going to come out every single week, and I don't want you to miss any of them. That would be awesome. Thank you very much for tuning in once again, and let's get to the week 1 recap. Here's my best buys article. We're going to go player by player and see how everybody did and see where I got lucky and unlucky. Carson Wentz, my top cash game play on the week, 313 yards, 3 touchdowns. Even though he started out really slow, I think going into the second quarter, a couple of minutes into the second quarter, he had 1 fantasy point. We were begging that he would do something. He definitely ended up having a big day with 28 DraftKings points. For only 5,700. This is one of the reasons that you pay down at quarterback. You don't need to pay up. Yes, guys like Patrick Mahomes have big days, a lot. But for your cash game lineup, you don't have to go there. You can spend that money on other positions that are a little bit, that have a little bit higher ceiling, because even the highest scoring quarterbacks don't have that 50-60 point upside that running backs and wide receivers do. Kyler Murray, 5,600 on DraftKings, 25 DraftKings points, again after a really slow first half. 29 of 54, 308 yards, 2 touchdowns. Didn't do much with his legs either. The thing that we think is going to keep him having a high floor week in and week out, and that offense definitely is going to give him a ceiling every single week. Nick Foles got injured. We got unlucky here. Nothing you can do about that. Injuries are a part of the game. It wasn't a process mistake. It was just sometimes you get unlucky. Jameis Winston, way too expensive. I was interested in him in tournaments because of the high total in this game. He stunk up the joint yesterday with 3 interceptions, 1 touchdown, 194 yards, and only 10 DraftKings points. I'll take the L on Jameis Winston in week 1. There were plenty of other quarterbacks, and you never really have to go all in on any of them. I should have paid up a little bit more to make sure that I had more exposure in tournaments to Patrick Mahomes. Lamar Jackson had himself a monstrous day and didn't do it with his legs. 324 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, only 6 rushing yards for Lamar Jackson, ending up with 36.56 DraftKings points. Matthew Stafford, 5,400. High team total against a defense that's recruiting new cornerbacks outside of multiple Whole Foods in Glendale, Arizona. Probably ends the day with 385 yards, 3 touchdowns, 31.6 DraftKings points. We're not going to get to play Matthew Stafford a lot this year. This was the week to do it. So we kind of nailed the quarterbacks with 1 miss, 1 injury that's not our fault. Nick Chubb, I think, had a pretty all right day, even though contrasted and compared to other players, it looks like he had a horrible day. Because he only had 11.5 DraftKings points, but 16 carries, 74 yards, got vultured for a touchdown, so he did not end up with a touchdown. 3 catches on 4 targets, which for Chubb is a good result, guys. His usage in the passing game this year, they were saying that they believe that he can be effective in the passing game. Seeing that 3 catches on 4 targets is a positive sign, though they only went for 10 yards. Game flow went completely opposite of what we predicted for this. He still could have ended up with a good day with that touchdown. I believe we got unlucky here, and it was not a process mistake. I am always going to favor on the side of high volume running backs at home when they're favored. I will continue to do that, and as you can see, it worked out for us at other spots. Dalvin Cook, 21 carries, 111 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 catches on 2 targets. I think they threw the ball 10 times. That's ridiculously dumb. The Vikings throwing it 10 times in total on a game, but if that's going to lead to Dalvin Cook having over 20 carries, awesome. 29 DraftKings points for Dalvin Cook. The chalk smashed as we thought it would. Chris Carson, my other main write-up at the position, 15 carries, 46 yards, and a touchdown, 6 catches on 7 targets. Another guy where the coach speak actually worked out in our favor. They said they wanted to utilize him more in the passing game. They did. 35 yards through the air and a touchdown, 25 DraftKings points there. Saquon Barkley, fine day, nothing spectacular. They got blown out. Game flow independent running back. Even if they get blown out, he's going to, or if they're losing, let's say, he's going to be involved because a lot of his work comes through the passing game. 11 carries only, but got you the 100-yard bonus, 120 yards rushing, 4 catches, 6 targets, 19 yards, 20.9 DraftKings points. Now, in comparison to somebody like Christian McCaffrey, who had over 45 DraftKings points, people can say, well, Saquon Barkley sucked, but he didn't. He basically got you what his median projection was for the slate. He is who we thought he was that day. I'm fine with him. Kerryon Johnson was a bust, 8.2 DraftKings points, 16 carries, 49 yards on the ground, so not a good yards per carry for him. 2 catches on 2 targets. That was very disappointing. I was expecting him to get somewhere in the range of 4 to 6 targets. He did not even approach that. 8.2 DraftKings points. Austin Eckler, a complete smash, 39.4 DraftKings points for only 5.5K. 12 carries, 58 yards, 1 touchdown. Handled 70% of the work, or 70% of the snaps at running back for the Los Angeles Chargers. 6 catches on 7 targets for 96 yards and 2 touchdowns. Going to be a monster in the place of Melvin Gordon III while he is, I don't know, sitting on a beach hoping to get paid more. Unfortunate situation. Hate to see it. Chris Godwin, 3 catches on 6 targets for 53 yards and a touchdown. Might have gotten bailed out there. 14.3 DraftKings points. Fine. D.D. Westbrook, 5 catches, 6 targets, only 30 yards and a touchdown. DJ Chark was the pivot play here. I was not on that in cash. If you had him, congratulations to you. 14.2 points for Dede. Especially when Foles went down, I thought this was going to be a complete disaster. It was salvaged with that late touchdown, so I'll take the bailout there. Curtis Samuel, this was a miss. 6.2 DraftKings points, 3 catches on 4 targets for 32 yards. It's accentuated by the fact that basically every other wide receiver from 4K to 4,500 went nuts. So this is a problem. John Brown with 10 targets. I was not expecting 10 targets for John Brown in that game with a low total. Also in that same game, we spoke about this on other YouTube broadcasts, other Twitch shows that I did. I've been on the Jameson Crowder train since May, and could have gone to him at 4,000 with his 17 targets and 14 catches. I didn't. Adam Thielen caught a touchdown early and looked like it was going to be an absolute smash day, but ends the day with 3 catches on 3 targets for 43 yards and a touchdown. Tyler Lockett was absent most of the day, salvaged his day with a touchdown as well. Evan Ingram was a complete smash, 30 DraftKings points, 10 catches on 13 targets. Unheard of at the tight end position. There's like 3-4 guys that can do that. He's going to be one that gets peppered with targets every single week. His price is going to climb 4,800 in week 1. Might be the lowest price that we get on Evan Ingram all season long. 110 yards, got you the bonus and a touchdown. Hunter Henry spent some time in the tent yesterday, which held his totals down. 4 catches, 5 targets, 60 yards, 10 DraftKings points, which does not kill you for 3,900. So I know that a lot of people look at the tight ends that went off and say, well, Hunter Henry only had 10 points, so he was a bust, but he wasn't. That's in the range of things that you're expecting. That is the meat of the bell curve for him. And if he doesn't get injured, probably a situation where he exceeds value. George Kittle, the targets were certainly there. 10 targets, caught 8 balls, 54 yards, 13.4 DraftKings points. Unfortunately, he had 2 touchdowns called back for penalties, so what could have been a monstrous day was not. OJ Howard saw more work, snaps, and targets than he had ever seen basically in a game for the Buccaneers. So Looks like he busted here with only 7.2 points, 4 catches, 32 yards, and no touchdowns. 2 touchdowns to Cameron Brate got called back on 1 drive. But OJ Howard, whose price could come down as a result of this matchup, is getting the volume to pay off in future weeks. So somebody that we're going to have to watch as the season goes on. Baltimore Ravens had 13 points. Browns with 4 sacks managed to get 0 points because they gave up about $1 million to the Titans as they couldn't force them off the field. The Seahawks with 9 and the Chiefs with 5. We're going to get to my cash game lineup in a second. As you guys know, every Friday I have, or maybe you don't, every Friday I have a segment on the Daily Wager Show on ESPN. And the smart guy who was on that show basically said what his cash game lineup was going to be, or at least was on Friday afternoon when this segment was recorded. Let's listen. The running back that I'm looking at this week is Christian McCaffrey. It kind of splits between him and Barkley, and in the lineups and the way that I'm building them this week, I'm kind of leaning towards McCaffrey because of my exposure to Evan Engram at tight end. So I don't want to load up on New York Giants this week. So Christian McCaffrey, 24% of targets from week 12 to week 17 last year. He's the high price guy that I'm going to want to go with, more than likely, especially in my cash games where I'm probably going to have Evan Engram. Dalvin Cook is sitting right there in the middle. How do you not take it against Atlanta? How could you not? This matchup has been what we've attacked all the time for the last 2, possibly 3 seasons. They're so tasty against running backs. Tasty. They allow so many catches. Really high floor, really high ceiling as well. 2 years removed from that ACL injury. Yeah, that smart guy had a good lineup, and then he did this. Somehow, from Friday, Chad is saying I should have the smart guy coming on the stream. I should. Somehow, I ignored that advice that the smart guy had in his cash game lineup on that day before I went to tape. And by the time it kicked off, that Christian McCaffrey, Evan Engram combo, which went off for what? Those two had 76 DraftKings points, 77 DraftKings points, something like that. That smart guy went with Nick Chubb and Travis Kelce, who combined had 23 DraftKings points. So just a 50-point swing. That 50-point swing ends up costing you when you're playing that in a lot of 50-50s, when you're playing that in all your head-to-heads. I won 29 of my 135 head-to-heads on DraftKings this week. Completely unacceptable for me. I have about a 61.5% win rate lifetime in head-to-heads on DraftKings, winning 21.5% on a week where I was basically all over it. Is very disappointing to me based on my mistakes in lineup building from Friday, the lineup that I had in there until kickoff. So like I say on the first look out for that video. It'll be coming up shortly on YouTube. I tend to pay down a little bit and look for a good amount of targets at tight end so that I can spend up on reliable, high target, game flow independent running backs that I can plug in. You look at who won. This is the listener league for the Edge podcast. Jay DeBouche, who is also a sub here on Twitch, did play Christian McCaffrey and was the only one of the 4 of us who did. 45.9 points. He went with Hunter Henry. Like I said, totally fine. He ends up walking away with that and probably had a very good day, as 171 was well above the mean in his cash games. Now, looking at the last thing that we're going to do on this recap video every single week, I have my 5 picks video that comes out. Last year, I was 29-20-1 against the spread. This year, I'm going to have to claw my way back, as my picks were the Panthers, the Lions, the Jaguars, the Eagles, and the Patriots. Feels bad as I only won 1 of those 4. The Eagles got buckied and gave up a touchdown to give up that cover in the last 6 seconds. The Lions also were up 16 in the fourth quarter or something like that, gave up their lead and lost that one in overtime as they tied. So 2.5 points, lost that one. The Panthers plus 2.5, lost by 3. And the Jaguars got the doors blown off yesterday. So 1-4 to start the year there. I will try to do better as the weeks go on. Other than that, I hope you guys had a winning week 1. Hopefully you did, and we will see you on the next broadcast. Look out for more videos on this channel. Like, subscribe, hit that notifications bell.